a hip pack with a little falcon wing action. It looks cool, but is it actually functional or does it get in the way? Should you get the standard 2-liter Falcon or spend $50 more to get the Pro version? I'll get into all of that on this video. I'll share the things that I like about it, some nitpicks that I have with it. I'll pack it out so you can see what fits in there. And then ultimately I'll share my thoughts on why, even though this design isn't particularly aligned with my specific carry preferences, I definitely see value for people like my wife who might prefer just having an open little hammock to stash bulkier things. Let's get into it. I'm gonna start talking about what is different between the standard and the Pro version. I'll share my thoughts on whether or not I think it's worthwhile upgrading or who would get the most value upgrading. So between the two, I think that the biggest change that will be universally appreciated is that they've added a concealed rear pocket. Secondly, they're using Woojin buckles on both. These look really cool actually on the standard one. I think it suits the design language nicely, but they're using the Woojin center push magnetic buckles on this guy, which I'll talk about more now. And then lastly, the more obvious one is the shell fabric. They're using an 840D micro ballistic nylon on this one with non-PU coated Zoom number 5 zippers. And then you get an EcoPack EPX 200 shell fabric on the Pro that also comes with these like matte PU coated zippers that are also Zoom number 5s. So with the rear concealed pocket, you know, in the carry community, I think for a lot of people, having a rear concealed pocket on something like a sling is a must-have. I'm definitely of the camp that I would always rather have one than not have one. I think with this one in particular, yes, I absolutely appreciate it. But with this being designed more as a hip pack, not to say that you can't wear it as a sling, but I think just the overall ergonomics and the access style is optimized for hip carry. When you have it on your hip and it's snug so that it's not going anywhere, getting into this pocket is not super easy. You have to just like loosen the strap to get in there. And now I get this is a place for a lot of people to just keep something valuable where you don't necessarily want that quick access to it. On a sling, it's pretty easy. Just like move it a little forward, snag whatever you want. With something like this, like I personally would use something like this more for my day-to-day life. It would not be my preference for my travel companion for reasons that I'll get into. So having a rear concealed pocket for my valuables where I'm wearing this as a hip pack is not as important as it would be on a sling. Second thing are these buckles, right? So as far as magnetic buckles go, the smaller ones, these are my favorite, the Woojin center push ones. I wish every magnetic sternum strap rocked these. They're just so easy to undo and do. And now this is another one where, given the choice between the two, I would definitely go with these guys. But at least for the things that I found myself putting into the Falcon Wing design, which is the defining design element in this hip pack, right? Where you can either loosen this or you can just completely unbuckle it and use this as a place to stash bulkier things or things that might get wet or dirty that you don't want contaminating the internals of. But what I have found is the kinds of things I'm putting in here, all I'm doing is just loosening the straps, putting it, and then tightening it. If you're planning on putting like a light jacket or something where you would ideally want to undo this and you're doing it frequently, then there's gonna be value. For me, I like that they're there, but I just haven't buckled and unbuckled enough for it to be like as worthwhile of an upgrade as I would have hoped. And then the last thing is the shell fabric. Now, if you've seen me talking about technical fabrics, of the technical, like between EcoPack, Ultra, X-Pack, EcoPack's my favorite. I think it's really cool that being a smaller brand, they went off the beaten path and are offering something like this. I think in doing so, they're gonna attract a more niche carry audience that would otherwise maybe not be as appealed to it, right? The nice thing about EcoPack is that there's a certain like smoothness to it. It feels a little less technical, more natural than X-Pack or Ultra, at least in my opinion. Now, this is not necessarily an upgrade, and this is probably the most important thing that you need to decide on how important it is for you, because it's what's contributing to it being like $50 more, which I'll also get into that component. I actually really like this micro ballistic nylon, the 840D that they're using on the standard one. Not only that, but they're using non-PU coated zippers, which not only means you don't have to worry about them peeling in the future, but they are a little bit smoother than they are on this guy. I gave this one an 8.8 Pilgrim churned butter zipper smoothness rating, and then this one an 8.6. So these are still smooth, and part of the rating, which I'll get into when I talk more about my nitpicks, is not so much the zipper smoothness itself, it's the zipping and unzipping experience because of the way this Falcon Wing gets in the way of the zippers. But yeah, with the Eco Pack, it's just a matter of, do you live in a place where it rains a lot and you want protection from the elements from your stuff? Or maybe you have a problem with bags, you have multiple, you're gonna have a little rotation, you like the technical look of the Eco Pack, then in that sense, I can see why someone would be attracted to this. Now, final thoughts between the two. Arterra did send these out to me in exchange for my honest opinion. I feel like at $59.99, this feels like really good product relative to what you're getting. I get for a lot of people having that rear concealed pocket is gonna make or break it, so that would automatically like put you in this guy. But for a hip pack specifically, I feel like I didn't find myself using it as much as I would like because it's not as easy to get in and out of. You have to like undo the strap or loosen it. I really like the ballistic nylon. Do I like this shell fabric more? It's more interesting. The hand feel is cool, but longevity wise and the fact that I'm getting smoother zippers and I don't have to worry about delamination, pimpling or anything, I'd probably just go with this one. Also the buckles, for the reasons I explained, because I'm not really putting things in here where I would need to buckle and unbuckle them that much. It's not a huge deal, and I actually like aesthetically, I feel like these buckles suit the design language, like the whole like Falcon Wing thing, better than these. So yeah, all in all, if I was paying for one of the two, I would actually feel more compelled to go with this one for the reasons I outlined. One other worthwhile call out is that you actually get padding on this guy all the way through. So it's a little bit more comfortable, especially like I have kind of like bony hips. They're both very, very comfortable. But with the Eco Pack version, you don't get padding here. So as far as like what I like about this is, one, the look, secondly is the comfort, and then lastly, which I already alluded to this, but is the fact that they included Eco Pack as their like secondary shell fabric option, which I think is like a bold but awesome move on their end compared to going something more popular like X-Pack. The look, very subjective. The moment I put this on for the first time, my wife was like, damn, that is really, really cool. And a lot of that comes from this like Falcon Wing design that you have in the front. It's also like slim, compact. It's about as cool as you can look as a dude rocking a hip pack. Second thing that I really like is just how comfortable it is. I think I might be a hip pack guy in hiding. It's spring here in Utah. Weather's been amazing. I wish it would stay like this year round, and we've been going on a lot of bike rides with the kids, and yeah, I've just been rocking this, flipping it around. It's really nice. There's something like really practical, functional about being in hip pack mode. So that I also really like. And then lastly, I'm not gonna get into it because I already talked about it, but is the fact that they're offering Eco Pack as the secondary shell fabric option. Even when the shell fabric option that you get on the base model, I think is a fantastic option as well. Now, as far as my nitpicks go, they are, one, just the overall tight access to get into this thing. Secondly, and tied to that, is the Falcon Wing design when it's in use, the impact that it has on the rest of the bag. And then just lastly is the price jump from this one to this one. It's almost double as much. So let me explain why. First of all is just the tightness. It is very slim, right? You have this Falcon Wing. I'm gonna just talk about number 1 and 2 nitpicks together because they're very intertwined. What I have found is when I'm not using the Falcon Wing, I just have this loosened up so that I have easier access to the actual zippers. But even still, right, it's the way the zippers are stitched on. The one here in the front, it's like the Falcon Wing is going to be in the way no matter what. And then secondly, the one in the top, you can access it where it's like barely grazing against the falcon wing when it's not tied up too tight. I don't have like huge hands, but I don't have small hands either. I think if you have small hands, you'll be fine, but it just all in all, this space fills up really, really quickly. And I am one that, like, for example, one of my favorite slings is the Black Ember TKX sling. That's like a 1.5 liter sling. I don't need a lot of space for my stuff. It's just the usability of space and having as frictionless access into it as possible. To me, the whole point of a sling is just to have more organization and more quick access. And I find that the tightness of this design makes it so that my things might be organized, but I can't get in and out of it as easily as I would like. The rear concealed pocket, especially when you've got stuff in there, it's just tight getting in there because you have to unstrap it. There is a concealed compartment here, but when you have this thing and you're wearing it and you want to access things, it gets pretty tight in there. And then beyond that is the front pocket, right? Whenever you have anything in the Falcon wing, it just makes everything even tighter. And so I feel like you should get this hip pack if you plan on putting stuff like that, right? Like I know people that like they rock this thing because this is like what they use when they walk their dog. John from Unpacked, talking about you, he throws like his dog's dirty bone in the front and it's perfect in that sense. And he has just like a few smaller things in here, but in terms of travel, right? Like that's where I would want my things secure, organized, but also easily accessible. And if I was actually using the Falcon wing for what it's intended for, it would make the experience into the hip pack that much more cumbersome. And I'm very particular, but yeah, that would just drive me a little bit crazy. But yeah, I already alluded to this when I talked about the zipper smoothness, but when the Falcon wing is semi-tight, secure, getting into the front zipper, like it's not easy. You have to kind of like get in there or loosen these, and then the zipper up top, it just gets in the way. And then the third thing that is a bit of a nitpick is just the price jump between this one and this one. And I explain why, given that price jump, I would go with this one. It is almost twice as much to go with the Eco Pack version. What you get is this rear concealed pocket, which I get for some people, it's like make or break. And for those people, if you're cool, like spending $50 more, then it's worth it. The buckles, I do prefer the ones on the Pro more. All in all, I prefer the look of the ones on the standard ones, but the things that I'm putting in here don't require me to buckle and unbuckle, so I'm not really getting value add there. And then just lastly is the shell fabric, and there I totally get this is a more expensive fabric. I have no insight into their margin profiles or their production costs, but like if you look at a lot of backpacks, right, that use significantly more shell fabric, when you're jumping from a ballistic nylon to something like an X pack or an Eco Pack, typically the price jump is like $30. And I get here you're using different buckles and they added on a pocket, but I just put myself in the shoes of a consumer and I just feel like you're just getting significantly more of a value proposition here. If this was $30 more, then I would say, you know, that's fine, but 50 just feels like a lot. All right, let me pack this guy out. So here in the front, this is a good spot for sunglasses. And then that's also where they have the key leash. Worth calling out is that on the standard one, they're using like fully white mesh, and then you get this cool like salmon, orange, pinkish color that I really like. The key leash itself is not detachable, which I think I probably would have liked, especially with this being such a good spot for sunglasses. I don't know if I'd want my keys interacting with my sunglasses, especially once you have something in the Falcon pouch there, but I'll just leave that there. And then front pocket, you have two little stretch mesh sleeves. I'm gonna do my best to try to like film the inside, but it's kind of tight to get in there. So AirPods on one side, and then this little Woobin owl that I've been really liking. Throw this guy in here. And then as you can see, right now I don't have a lot of stuff, but already just whatever you might want to put in there gets pretty tight. Here I'll put little magnetic mobile battery bank. And then you could fit passports or whatever. I'm just gonna put chapstick, nail clippers for now. And just to show you that you don't have padding here on the Pro version. On the standard one, this is what the back looks like. You do have a little padding there, but the quality of the webbing is not as nice as this like smoother nylon airplane style webbing. Did notice also like a little pilling action, just kind of the nature of this mesh, and you're rocking as a hip pack, but already with just those things, pretty filled up. And then for now, I'll just throw like little poop bags for my dog here, but you can put bigger things. Here's kind of like a thin hoodie. So this is where, you know, like it would make more sense being able to unbuckle it. And then there, you can have it, but. Okay, so final thoughts. Also, who is this for? There are people like my wife, when she's like around the kids, she doesn't really care about organization. She just wants to be somewhat organized, have access to her things, but she's typically like just stashing her stuff and not thinking about it. For someone like that, right, having this little falcon wing action where you can put bulkier things, whether it's like snacks, a bone for your dog, wrap a leash around it, whatever it might be. I think for those intended use cases and you want it in a hip pack, I believe this is the only way you're gonna get that. There's nothing else on the market like that. If you do like the idea of carrying something bulkier in a compact sling, hip pack, but you prefer to rock it as a sling, I recently reviewed the Alpaca Flight Sling Pro, and they have a really clever design where you unzip the bottom, it opens up, there's like a mesh sleeve there where you can put a water bottle, it cinches down, and you could also put bulkier things. What I like about that design is that it doesn't get in the way of the zippers, so you can still easily access your things. Yes, if you put bulkier things in there, it's gonna eat into the internal compartment and make it tighter, but it suits my carry preferences a bit more. You also have the Toshi Rework Sling. They're 2.5 liter that also incorporates kind of a similar strap design where you can put bulkier things, but it's on the bottom of it so it doesn't get in the way. I think if you're trying to decide between the two, really this is the strong value proposition. As long as you can live without having that rear concealed pocket, the 840D microballistic nylon feels great. I love the look of these buckles despite these functioning a little better than these. The webbing, worth calling out, feels more premium also. On the Pro, they're using that airplane seatbelt style webbing, which is just like smoother and looks more premium. This one's gonna age better. You don't have to worry about pimpling or delamination or zippers peeling like you would in something like this. And yeah, I guess I'm curious, like anyone that has one of these, like what are your use cases? It's solving a very specific problem in a very unique way. Like what do you love it for? Very curious about that. And also for anyone that's thinking about getting one of these, what would you like to use it for? And I'm happy to share some thoughts around how well it'll solve for that specific use case. So best of luck and cheers.